You're good.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, these are the stories we tell from the Randomness of Nothing podcast. And today I have a very special guest who's carved out time out of his busy schedule. There's no excuses with this man. Only hard work pays off. And you are ultimately the champion of your own destiny. Mark Young, PhD, entrepreneur, business owner, and all-around energetic gentleman. Thank you, sir.
Well, I appreciate the invite today, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm loving your energy already here.
Listen, when I watch enough of your videos and you are in the fitness and health space, and more importantly, I think you're a no excuse kind of guy. And when you decide to make a podcast and you talk to entrepreneurs, for me personally, I've shed a lot of bad habits of my own because I realize I have to step my game up to get people like you on my show. And I've learned that everybody has 24 hours in a day, and it's what you make out.
You're not wrong.
It's the straight up truth, man. So I want to hear your story.
You're not wrong. It's one of the things actually in a book that I wrote, published last year. It was called Radical Generosity. And we tend to think of generosity as being a financial contribution to people, where in fact, one of the arguments that I made was that giving of your time is an even greater act of generosity because it's a limited resource, and giving of your wisdom is even a greater act of generosity because that's something not everyone can do. And giving of your presence when you're fully present when you're with somebody is, we tend to live in this fast-paced, bifurcated attention kind of world.
Right.
And, when you're able to just put everything else on pause to make me the priority, I absolutely respect that and hope to give that back.
Well, it's funny because, when Mark Cuban, obviously accumulated his wealth, he bought a jet because this, he said, it was my time. And you're like, whoa, it was like, people think of the jet and they kind of all of a sudden, oh, you have a jet because you're rich. He's like, no, I wanted my time. I wanted to be exactly where I wanted to be when I wanted to be there. And I didn't want to be dictated by somebody else's schedule. And so I was like, man, it's amazing when you put yourself in that thought space. And even when you put like a calendar together for yourself, you start blocking off your important moments, right? You can still kind of have that quote unquote lazy time where you just want to lounge. But at the same time, you've mastered that by building the successful companies that you have.
Well, and Dan Sullivan, who runs Strategic Coach, I don't know if you're familiar with Strategic Coach or not, but it's probably one of the largest coaching organizations. Dan hasn't driven a car in 30 years because his point is it's ridiculous for me to spend my time driving a car. Like, why would I do that? Why would I waste time driving? I mean, that's beyond Mark Cuban, but he's like, there's no reason for me to drive a car. He always has a driver. No matter where he goes, there's always a driver scheduled. His assistant makes sure that there's a pickup and a drop off, and
oh my gosh,
reason to drive a car. That's a waste of time.
That talk about having things down to the minute. You have a list. Right? Yeah, you have a list of accolades. You have a PhD in functional medicine, Master of Science in Business from U of M. My brother graduated from there, and I saw you have a 313 number too. So Michigan connection. I'm just out from my side of Detroit. And then we're going to talk about your entrepreneurial career and Rise Agency. So there's a lot that I just rattled off, but I'll let you tell it.
Well, I didn't know you were a Michigan guy.
I went to Michigan State. My brother went to U of M. I graduated from Michigan State. I know. I know.
No, I did my undergrad. And I collect degrees. I'm a weirdo. My undergrad actually was from U of M, which was in psychology. But then I went back. I got a master's from Central Michigan.
Wow.
Then I went beyond. That was a master's in administration. I wanted to legitimize myself, and I figured getting a master's degree was the way to do it.
You're right.
And I'm going to rattle this off, and I'll change the topic because then I went and did a master's in clinical psychology. I did a master's in theology. Did a master's in nonprofit administration, MBA. Then I went back to U of M and did a doctorate in education, and then later got a PhD in functional medicine, and found myself just the other day talking to my aunt, who was talking about when her teenage grandson goes away to college. And she's talking to me because nobody has seen the inside of a classroom more than I have. And I think she was expecting me to, give this, huge explanation about what he needs to do and how her words were, I'm telling him he needs to consider getting a program that focuses on AI. Mm-hmm. Now, my aunt has no idea what AI is about. Right. She's like, I'm telling him that he needs to really think about getting into AI. That would be where the future is going. And my answer to her was, well, if he's really that motivated, don't go to college at all.
Right.
And she kind of stopped and was like, well, I mean, and I went, I have to be honest with you, with as much money as I've spent in credit hours and as much paper as I could hang on the wall, and I was a college professor and administrator. This was my life. Like, I don't know that I would even encourage somebody to go to college today, because for an autodidactic person, there is a limitless amount of information available.
Yes.
That the skills that a person needs today, particularly in entrepreneurship, have nothing to do with a classroom. They have everything to do with innovation.
I think that's crazy. Yeah, I agree with you.
And I mean, and like I said, I can sit here and, I'm looking at my name here and it's got PhD at the end. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You can call me doctor. It's irrelevant, right? Because anything that I know, you can look up in 5 seconds on your smartphone. It's the truth, right? Yeah. And the hope, when I used to teach for years and years, I was a college professor. Even back then, because that was probably 15, 20 years ago. And I used to tell my students, and this was before AI, this was just internet based. And I would tell my students then, my goal is not to get here and, have you memorize the year that Sarbanes-Oxley was signed.
Right.
My goal is to get you to think.
Yes.
Because there is zero amount of information that you can't put your finger on in minutes.
Right.
In internet-driven world.
Correct.
The problem that I have with this, Rashad, and this is very much speaking to your entrepreneurial audience, is education is great. And I know a lot of people, I've got a friend of mine who teaches an entrepreneurial, classes in an entrepreneurial-based program at the University of Miami. And I laugh every time that she talks about it, because I'm like, I know you think you're doing the world a favor by teaching entrepreneurship in a classroom. And I'm like, but here's the problem. You've never been an entrepreneur.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts?
How could I be a football coach if I never stepped on the field?
Right.
And trying to explain that, you
have to live it.
Is a life lived, correct. And the second side to that is, teaching my students years ago the necessity of learning how to think, because there was information anywhere they wanted to get. If I were standing in front of a classroom today, my concern and my teaching to them wouldn't be about, use the internet to find anything you want. It would be about, don't relegate your thinking to AI models, because today I don't even have to think.
Right. And the reality about it is that, coming from the place that you did, it's almost like when things were more simplistic and people were kind of Luddite like, they've gotten accustomed to things without putting in the necessary work, right? So now you're actually a subject matter expert without actually experiencing certain things. Even though the information is at your full disposal in front of you, you still have to go through that fire and brimstone to make something successful. And, you can't chat GTP the successful health companies that you've created, right? You can get the basis outline of it. You can get the bullet points of it. But you're still going to have to go through those lonely nights where your idea didn't work, where you flopped, where you didn't get the replies back to people. I can speak from a space of only creating a podcast. And there were days where I had 0 listeners. And in that time, you're going to find out whether you're worth a damn or not. Because if you you have to plow through.
Right. You're right. And it requires an incredible amount of self-nurturing to be able to get yourself in that space. And that's the exciting part for me is like, I read a Instagram post recently, one of the foofy posts that you see in the, hashtag hustle and grind kind of thing. And, but it's like, it was definitely a moment to stop and be like, yeah, you're right. Like Mr. Beast once posted a YouTube video that didn't get any views. Nowadays you think about it and you're like, well, Mr. Beast is a beast when it comes to video content, but it's like, but you're right. He started somewhere. Like the first episode, and it's that reminder to me that the first time you do anything, it's going to suck.
100%.
Let that be a reason to start sooner than later.
Exactly.
Not a reason to hesitate.
Right.
Like it's going to suck the first time. Get it over with. I used to, and it's funny enough because back in college, I used to, I say this is going to sound terrible. It's like, I didn't play hockey, but I loved hockey. And then, so I would end up just going and hanging out and being on the ice and everything else. And it was always a joke that it didn't matter how many times you went out and skated. like the first fall was always the worst. And it was like, and it used to be a joke that like, I'm going to put my skates on, I'm going to hop out on the ice, and I'm just going to throw myself on the ground to just get it over with.
Absolutely. 100%.
Like, just,
100%.
once you fall once, you're fine. Just get it over with. And it always is. It's that, if you're water skiing, it's like, just fall in. Like, just fall in and just get it over with.
See, but the problem is, and we'll get to your career. I just want to say this briefly. The problem is people don't want to be memed, or they don't want to be like the video, right? So now you could suffer your embarrassment, your fall, but now people all of a sudden, right now all of a sudden, like, oh well, if I had this small moment in an entirety, only the 5 seconds gets captured, so to speak. Oh, but to your point, that makes a lot of sense.
I love that.
Yeah.
So career, you've mentioned a couple things. You've talked about, medical, you've talked about Rise Agency, and I'll say this. So the complication of my career is that my full-time business is actually an advertising and marketing agency called Rise.
Yes.
And we focus on e-commerce and direct-to-consumer marketing. In fact, I just finished my book series on the same topic, which is a 5-book series that literally gives e-commerce brands a walkthrough from start to finish of everything from identifying brand to how to build email sequences, what landing pages need to look like, and so on. Like, it's just that, tactical.
Beautiful.
But we predominantly, because of my interest and my contacts, we predominantly spend our time with brands that are in the health and wellness space.
Right.
And part of that is because that's a lot of direct-to-consumer companies. Because there's a lot of challenger brands out there that are trying to find natural health and wellness solutions for people, but they're fighting Goliath.
Oh yeah.
And Goliath, in most cases, is health insurance companies. It is big pharma.
Right.
It is all of these things. It is just the misinformation that exists about healthcare. So we help craft that kind of stuff and get to much better solutions for them. So that's our focus by and large. So yeah, we work with a lot of different people in that, but. You mentioned Zona Health, and Zona Health happens to be one of those companies that I've worked with for years, which is funny because I was an investor in the company, and then we started doing some marketing with the company, and then the board ended up asking if I would step in as the interim CEO of the company.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting because I agreed to it for 6 months, and the problem is that was 7 years ago. Maybe because we, got in, kind of cleaned up some stuff, we did some marketing things for it, but then we really decided that, and this, talk about failing forward. Zona is a medical device that uses isometric exercise or hand grip strength to lower blood pressure. And there's a whole scientific explanation as to how that happens, but it's almost an unbelievable concept for most people. So we've decided to move towards FDA endorsement to do it.
Wow. That's amazing.
But we fought through getting a clinical trial approved because you've got to go through and actually you have to write the entire study and then get the FDA to agree that they're okay with the way you're conducting the study. And that was back in 2018.
Jeez.
We finally got permission to launch on March 13th of 2020. March 6th of 2020 was when we got the letter in the mail saying we can move forward. And then you're familiar with what happened March 13th of 2020 was when the whole world went into lockdown.
I was actually in New Jersey when that happened, believe it or not.
Oh, right? Gosh. I had a friend who was in from out of town, and I lived down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And 3 of us were out to dinner, and we were at a restaurant that we go to frequently. And my buddy was visiting from out of town, and we were just hanging out at this Mexican restaurant. They're like, "Do you guys want last call?" And I started laughing. I'm like, "Last call? It's 8:00. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And, "Oh, well, the restaurant's closing early tonight." We're like, "What are you talking about?
Exactly.
The restaurant's closing early." Well, the city just said, and it's like, next thing you know, there's police cars up and down the streets throwing people out of restaurants, and we're like, "What the literal hell?"
It was crazy.
But we got this notice that we were allowed to start our study, and then a week later, the world shut down. So we were assured by the research groups that we were fine, that we could move forward, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Everything would be okay. So we started, moving forward with it anyways. Long story short, about 1.5 years in, it was just such a train wreck that we literally had to just end it.
Wow.
Close the whole thing down and then start again. So we ended up doing the study again. We're over halfway through now. And the hope is that we get to the end of, this trial, get our FDA thing, and then we can actually bring this science to the world to get people less dependent on antihypertensive medications because 45% of the adult population has high blood pressure.
Correct.
It's like, well, imagine if there was a way to correct that without having to be on pills every day for the rest of your life.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, so, and then we're running uphill trying to, run up against big pharma, right?
Well, the thing is about it too is I think that sometimes people, they only accept the world for what it is in front of them because that's all they've been taught and told, right? And so the things that you need to learn and things that you need to educate yourself about, you're not going to learn in the classroom. Sometimes you won't even learn from your doctor or your dentist or the person because they live in a very structured bubble. And I'm not suggesting anybody should take some hazardous chemicals and try it on themselves. But there's a reason why there are natural things out in nature that actually do work, right? I saw you were talking about the GLP-1 that you were talking about extensively, right? So now that's the new thing. But having said all that, people haven't necessarily changed their habits, so to speak, when it comes to utilizing those things, right? So you haven't fixed the entirety of yourself. Can you give some insight into that?
Yes, that's such a big topic. Yeah, I was like, sure, some insight.
Yeah, well, what's your opinion? Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll touch on the GLP-1 thing because you mentioned that. That is the same thing goes for heart health. The same thing goes for any kind of health. And by the way, I believe that people who live in the health space and people who are entrepreneurs have the greatest Venn diagram overlap that I've ever seen. And part of that is entrepreneurs understand the value of time, as we've already discussed. Yes. So it's not about the my health insurance or all the other types of things, and that's why I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick because I understand the opportunity that I lose when I'm well.
Without question.
When I'm in good health, when I'm sleeping well, when I'm in good health hygiene, when I am thinking clearly, when my diet is dialed in and everything else, I make more money. I'm more productive at work. I build bigger kingdoms when I'm healthy. And it has nothing to do with, being in the hospital for 3 months would be terrible. I don't know what I'm going back to at work if I'm out for 3 months.
Right.
So I think entrepreneurs are people by their very nature that are problem solvers. They look for things that can be corrected and they start a business. Yeah. And they bring that adjustment to the rest of the world. Likewise, I believe the same is true in their own health life. Like they look at a lab report and they see one or two things that are off and immediately go into how can I fix this problem mode.
Right.
Because they understand the value at the time, but they also understand systems. GLP-1s you mentioned and GLP-1 agonists, which is what we're seeing out of Ozempics and Mounjaros and Zepbounds and all these other the semaglutides, all of the things that are different activations, but all net effect doing the same thing. The issue that we're seeing in that is, sure, like Ozempic is going to curb your appetite so that you don't eat much. The problem is most people who are on those, we see all the symptoms. It's obviously you're going to end up with digestive issues because you're practically bringing your digestive system to a screeching halt, which is why you're not hungry. Mm-hmm. But we're getting women who are experiencing hair loss. We're getting muscle loss. We're getting eyesight issues. We're getting all of these other things. Yeah, that Ozempic face. We're getting a lot of that stuff happening around GLP-1s right now. But the reason for it, which I think you nailed, has nothing to do with the GLP-1. It has everything to do with the fact that you didn't fix the input problem. All you did was put less input. So if you're still eating, I had a lady who worked for me for a while and she was on Zepbound, I think, and she was practically melting away. She worked remote, and every time we saw her, she just would come back smaller than she was the time before. And she was super happy about it because she'd struggled with her weight her entire life. The problem is we'd all go out to dinner. Yeah. She'd order whatever tasted good. Right. So it was like, I'll order a lasagna or I'll order a whatever. And it's like not a nutrient dense anything.
Right.
And then she'd have 3 bites of it and, then would order a beer and then order a whiskey and then order a glass of wine. And it was like, so it'd be 4 drinks and 3 bites of food. And I love her dearly. But at the same time, it just became this, it's garbage in, garbage out.
100%, yeah.
What ends up happening is I hear people say all the time, well, I hear when you come off of these things, you just put all the weight back on. I'm like, if you're still putting the same
Correct.
type of garbage in
Correct.
that you did that got you there to begin with,
Right.
yes.
Absolutely will.
And the reason you're losing your hair is because you have no nutrition.
Right.
And the reason that you've got this weird face now is because you have no nutrition. And
Right.
the reason you're losing muscle tone is because you have no nutrition. I've used GLP-1s when I just wanted to, cut down a few pounds or whatever. And it's like, and I also know that during those times is when my protein intake needs to be dialed in perfectly.
Without question. Without question. See, you've mastered your body too.
Well, and I think that becomes a thing for everybody, and that is tools like GLP-1s or other types of what I refer to as scaffolding. They're there to help support an already structurally sound system. They're not there to cheat code your way to the next level.
Yeah. That's a great
and
analogy.
there is no cheating. There is no cheating. I just read something, was it this morning or last night? And it was a great phrase. And it said, when you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your decisions.
That's deep.
I was like,
That's deep.
I had to read that twice. I was like, wow.
That's deep.
When you're born, you look like, yeah. Well, it's funny to me because my dad and I are very similar. And, we look similar, we act similar. Like, it's a joke that we're the same human. And when it made the comment about when you're born, you look like your parents, my mind filled in, and then you age and look like your parents, as you age. And when it did that turn of phrase and said, when you die, you look like your decisions, I was like, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting when that ended. Because I was expecting this to be like, you turn out just like your parents kind of thing. And it was like, no, you don't turn out like your parents. You turn out like your decisions.
Right.
And I thought, wow.
And
in every way imaginable.
Yeah, and the good, the bad, and the in between of it all, right? So and we've seen
Absolutely.
all those, and it's no secret that it's not. We've all been to a funeral or a wake or seen pictures, and we know wow, that person lived a hard life or lived a great life, health wise, and that's deep. That kind of stung a little bit, It makes me.
Truthfully, it kind of makes you think about everything, though, doesn't it?
It kind of, damn, and so what's fast? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add, and it's not just health decisions, though, because, I sat on that one for a few minutes, and I was like, man, that has everything to do with how many people attend your funeral.
100%.
To what disease did you die of, to
100%.
Who's paying for the funeral.
Yeah, it's like Gatsby, right?
Financial decisions, relational decisions, career decisions, health decisions.
Yeah.
All of those decisions become the short-term inputs that lead to that last turn of phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is I feel like even though we talked for 25 minutes, I felt like we just met at a restaurant. We just kind of we're at the bar, just kind of bantering back and forth. And I love
hanging out.
I do want to ask you briefly, because I know your time is very valuable,
please.
and I'd love to do a part 2. What is biohacking to you? It was funny, and I only say this because you're like all these things that terms that people throw out. And I saw your interview. You're like fasting, walking, sleep. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yes. And I'm going to say this, when people ask questions, I get asked the question, what is your favorite biohack? And I kind of laugh because probably the biggest pushback I get from people, and I don't love the word biohacking because I think it's just kind of a loaded word nowadays.
Yeah.
But too many people are on this. It costs too much to be healthy, and they rig the system to make the cheap food is the unhealthy food, and the good food is too expensive, and blah blah blah. And so when people ask me what are my favorite biohacks, one, I think we need to major in the minors, and make sure you're getting the little stuff done first, because all of the there's no reason to be doing plasmapheresis or something if you haven't even figured out how to eat right.
Right.
People, my cousin asked me the other day, she was in town visiting, and she saw me taking my supplements, and she's just like, so what supplements should I take? And I'm like, well, let's first start by, and she was literally eating a bag of cookies and some roll up Tostito things from the 7-Eleven with a soda in hand. And I was like, well, I don't think the supplements are really our starting point. Maybe the fact that you laugh about how everybody at the McDonald's near your work knows you by name is the bigger problem. Not dogging on her, but it's we need to major in the minors first. Build the foundation from the ground up. The biohacking side is is all about optimization, but you don't optimize until you're already at a great level. Like all you're doing is enhancing greatness at that point. And the easy things that I always say are my favorite biohacks are intentionally to disarm people because I say it costs you nothing to learn how to deal with sleep hygiene and sleep better. It costs you nothing to fast.
Right.
It costs you nothing to take a walk and get mobile. You don't need an expensive gym membership to stay active. And so when people kind of do the, oh, it's too expensive, I'm like, really? Like, you would be better off intermittent fasting and having one really good meal a day than taking your money and spreading across 3 junk meals.
Yeah.
Like, that's a better decision, and the dollars are the same.
It was crazy because when I was watching that short clip, I was like waiting for like the big moment, and you just sat there calm, and then you just like, well, damn, and it's like
right.
It's like, well, damn, and sometimes the answers stare people in the face. I want to be very, again, cognizant of your time. I'd love to have a follow-up. Where can people find Mark Young, all your accolades, your wonderful, businesses, and the things that you continue to do?
Well, I appreciate that. Anybody is welcome to go visit themarkyoung.com. That's my personal site, and it's got links to all the goofy stuff that I do. So you can find me there, themarkyoung.com.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it takes a lot to be self-reflective and to take risk, and you are very, very in rare space because of it. And you seem to be in the fact that you want to share it with other people is a testament to, again, your willingness to give your time. And for people who are listening, you can find Mark Young's episode on the T.R.O.N podcast. Please subscribe, check out his website, and we'd love to have you back on, sir.
I appreciate that, Rashad. Great seeing you, and thank you to everyone who listened.
Appreciate you. Thank you.